Hey everyone, welcome to Horrible Gaming. My name is Nora, and on today's video we are designing the Beauty and the Beast castle in the Glade. Many of y'all have been asking for a Beauty and the Beast build for quite some time now, and I have finally figured out what I want to do with this structure. So instead of doing something structured like we normally see with the Beauty and the Beast castle, I'm actually going to take the challenge of doing something natural related. So I thought that this location in the Glade Trust was absolutely perfect for the castle because we have this gorgeous pond placement and then these trees kind of like framing in the castle itself. And since we obviously cannot add additional bridges or inclines into the biomes themselves, I thought making use of this rock bridge area would be so perfect, and it honestly just added such a nice fairy tale touch to the build too. So to get started on our castle build, we're going to do a curved pathway that goes around the pond. I really want this to be very natural, so I'm going to obviously blend out the edges with rocks and different flowers. So we'll get to that once we get this fully mapped out. I will also be doing a small sitting area inside of the gazebo, and I thought that this addition to the build would add such a nice fairy tale and elegant touch to the build. Now for our color palette, I'm going to be sticking to blues, purples, and whites. I just thought this really complemented the Beauty and the Beast castle. And then inside the gazebo, I will be using Fairy Godmother's bench, and I'll do a couple of book clutter items just to really highlight this area is made for Belle. Also, in today's speed build, I will be using flowers that I've collected from the Forgotten Lands, Dazzle Beach, and Peaceful Meadow. I think that these flowers really complement the Beauty and the Beast castle's color palette, but of course you can use any type of flower you think that would suit best for the build or just for your valley in general. So before I keep adding some more bushes into the build, I will be putting flowers behind the flower planters over here just to kind of give it a really nice elegant touch, and then we'll accent with some flowers throughout the pathway too. I started marking out the greenery on the pathway with some ferns and bushes, but I'm actually going to be changing these colors to the Forest of Valor ferns just because we're going to be using a lot of blue tone trees throughout this build, and I thought that the Glade Trust bushes and stuff didn't match it as well. However, if you want to stick with the Glade Trust greenery that we find inside this biome, I would recommend mixing in some trees that match the ferns and bushes just so everything ties in together. This was just all my personal preference. I think both combinations can definitely work. I just really wanted to use the blue color palette since I'm also going to be using some blue florals throughout the build as well. For the next stage of my build, I'm going to add some additional flowers and greenery behind the gazebo, and then I also added a bordered gravel path underneath the gazebo too, just to add a really nice detail. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and add a few more details behind our gazebo, and then we'll go ahead and start detailing the pathway leading up to the castle. So for our pathway, I'm going to be doing a mixture of the butterfly flower and the tangled bush, and obviously using the ferns too. I just think going with a rotation between these florals and the rocks are just such a great combination, and I just think that it gives it such a nice natural and overgrown look. And because we're using all these florals and bushes, we're actually using less towards our item limit than as if we were doing the whole entire border with a rock-like pattern. So I obviously still have a ways to go with my valley, but as you can see, I am past 3,000 on my item limit. So doing this option is a lot more friendly towards my situation. Eventually, I do plan to flatten some of my biomes and start fresh with a new idea with them. But since I still have a ways to go with some details in other biomes, this pathway will ensure that I won't have any issues with completing them. Now my pathway is almost done being detailed. We're going to continue adding additional butterfly flowers throughout the border of it. And just like I mentioned earlier in this video, originally I was planning on using the Glade Trust greenery throughout the build, but since my bushes and trees went a more blue toned color palette, I just thought the Forest of Valor looked a lot better. Now when I'm working with natural pathways, I really just love using the ferns in general because it hides all the harsh edges that you can see right now on our pathway. This just kind of gives it a more natural and overgrown look. I think once I finish detailing the pathway edges, I'm going to go ahead and extend that muddy path towards the river, and this is going to be a nice functional area where I can do my fishing if I need to in the glade. Originally when I was recording this, I had it blocked off completely, but then I realized it wasn't really that functional. I also felt like just doing this extended pathway looked better for the build anyways, but if you want to go ahead and block that off, you totally could. I would just add some more butterfly flowers and trees and bushes. So our Beauty and the Beast castle is almost done, but I still need to detail a few more locations of the build, and that is near the river and also by the side of the castle. For the side of the castle, I just went with a simple combination of some barrels and a wagon. I'm gonna keep the decor over here pretty simple, not only because of my item limit, but I want to keep this build as functional as possible. But of course, you can add any more details that you think would suit this build best too. Anyways, on to the last location of today's speed build. We're gonna add a few more underbrush items over here just to detail the build a little bit more. And then after I finish detailing this location, we will do the final walkthrough and tour of how today's speed build turned out. I hope that today's speed build brought you some Disney Dreamlight Valley inspiration. Before today's video also ends, I do want to give a huge shout out to all of my channel members. Thank you so much for supporting me as a creator. Just your support in general means the world to me. Thank you so much for watching and have a horrible day. I'll see you next video.